It's so easy to forget who came before. It's so easy to forget the people that created the communities that we live in. We take it for granted that it's just there. It's so important to preserve the past.
The Breman Museum connects people to Jewish culture, arts, and history. We look at life often through a lens of what our life is like, and that's it. And so this experience allows you to explore a new perspective.
The museum is about celebrating the lives of those who've come before us.
But you have to not just burden everyone with facts and figures and dates and times. You have to let them know that real people were involved in all of this, and they're here to teach you.
We have to recognize that we have our own history. We as Jews who settled in Atlanta and Georgia, this in itself is a history, and if we don't disseminate it, people will never know about it.
In 1993, Jane Levy, Sandy Berman, and others planned an exhibit called Creating Community.
It was a reflection of Jewish life in Atlanta.
But then it became obvious that there was so much material in the community that we really were onto something that was bigger than what we imagined.
Mr. Breman got involved towards the creating of a physical facility for the Heritage Center.
Eleanor was very much involved in the museum. She wanted to really make this museum as good as she possibly could make it.
It's an important addition to the Atlanta landscape.
Once we were a museum and we knew we were going to have exhibitions, you needed to have more than paper. You needed objects.
The Cuba Archives gathers the material, builds a case. This is what happened. You can trust this.
There's a treasure trove of things in there that tell the story of this community.
I mean, I held the broken pieces of the temple that had been blown apart by hatred intended to silence Rabbi Rothschild.
If you don't have those memories preserved, then you can't learn from it.
The exhibitions are what bring the archives to life so that everybody can understand what happened before.
I am a child survivor of the Holocaust. I'm looking to educate, to let people realize that this happened.
One of the things I'm most proud of about the Breman is our Holocaust education.
It teaches all aspects of the Holocaust, but one of the most important ones, I think, is the resistance, that people can stand up and make a difference.
I've been speaking to school children for a number of years. When we are gone, there's nobody that can stand up and tell these stories. That's why I feel very obligated to do this.
Galleries or exhibits like ours are such a wonderful teaching tool to the thousands of school children that come through.
They helped me get a Holocaust speaker into my class. There were 400 sixth graders, and they were in an auditorium. No one talked.
I had a 5th grade student who came up to me, and she was a young African-American student. And she said, I never knew that white people could be discriminated against. That is what the Breman does, is it changes perspectives. We do a series of programs that go out to synagogues, out to libraries, out to schools.
We're more than just about creating community and more than just the Holocaust. We are celebrating artists and musicians and exciting things in the world that affect all of us.
We really try and emphasize the contributions Jews have made. We're honored and thrilled and excited about the 20th anniversary.
It's just necessary for a community to have a museum of different ethnic heritages, because otherwise our stories die when we die.
You need to know where you came from. You need to know about your family.
It's important that we know that we survived. It's important that we know that we made lives for ourselves. It's also important to know that that also can be taken away in the snap of a finger.
I really think we're at a platform where we can grow even more and have a bigger impact on the lives of the people of Atlanta, Jews and non-Jews.
Do you know how fast 20 years goes by? Stick around and watch us in 20 more years.
Because although tonight is a celebration of our past 20 years, we already are working on our next 20 years. The Breman wants to be the center for Jewish heritage and culture in Atlanta, and the next 20 years will be exciting. You're going to see some literature later on where you can see a snapshot of some of our newest programs. And today, you're going to be witnessing a first for the Breman, a wonderful and eclectic art exhibit from some of Atlanta's great art collectors in the Jewish community. I have 2 minutes, so I'm going to say thank yous, and then I'm going to sit down. First, thank you to our wonderful and generous lenders of art. You might have noticed the exhibit is now closed, but members can come tomorrow for special tours. And of course, if you're not a member, I bet I could tell you how to join. And you can also see the exhibit over the next 3 months, and again in March for the second exhibit, where Atlanta Collects brings together some of the best modern art from our Atlanta Jewish community. A special thanks to our guest curator, Bill Island, from the Georgia Museum of Art in Athens. Who, in my humble opinion, gave one of the best exhibits of art in Atlanta. Thank you also to the Breman Board and its current and past leadership. I am honored to be counted among you. Thank you to the founding leaders of the Breman, Jane Levy and Candy Berman. Sandy, I'm sorry, I miswrote it, sorry. Candy, you're good too. And thank you to our current, amazing, tireless, and I am told right now, extremely tired staff at the Breman. Aaron, you have put together a wonderful team. Tonight could have never happened without your leadership and creativity. And finally, thank you all for being here. Tonight, let's celebrate the Breman for its past 20 years, and let's work together over the next 20 years to reach new heights. Thank you. And now we have Rabbi Berg from the temple, who I believe will lead us in Motzi.
I'm delighted to offer the Motzi on this historic and celebratory evening. And since everybody here is a history buff of some kind, I want to give you one piece of interesting history that you may not know. In almost 4,000 years of Jewish history, no rabbi has ever recited the Motzi without an introduction. And I'm not going to change history tonight, but I will be brief. First, to offer my profound Mazel Tov to the Breman for reaching this tremendous 20th anniversary milestone. To Aaron and his staff, to all of the volunteers, to the Breman family, to all of us who rely on the Breman to tell our Jewish story through the universal themes of diversity and human dignity. Everyone in this room, every single person, has helped to reach this precious milestone in time, and we should all be very, very proud. And to Jarvin Levison, our distinguished honoree, Jarvin has integrity and wit and deep charm. He has commanded respect in a very humble way. He is deeply honest and caring, so loyal to his clients, his friends, his family, and our entire community. And he is most deserving of our high praise tonight. As we celebrate the Breman and its leaders, keep us ever mindful, O God, of how deeply we depend on you, and may we also understand how deeply you depend on us. United with you in holy partnership, may we labor for peace among all peoples and nations, create joy within our homes, and thus may we find serenity within ourselves. Guide us and show us that we are your children by giving ourselves faithfully to your tasks, and help us to convert our convictions into conduct and commitment. Teach us to narrow the gap between our principles and our practices, between our aspirations and our actions, and keep us from blaming others for our own character faults. Better us that we may face our defeats with courage and carry our successes with humility, and keep us from the pride that blinds the mind and from the anger that locks the heart. Make us loyal to our convictions in the face of falsehood, but help us to speak truth only in love. Eternal our God, draw us closer to your teachings, closer to each other and closer to you, so that we have enough happiness to keep us sweet, enough trials to keep us strong, enough hope to keep us happy, enough success to keep us eager, enough friends to give us comfort, enough wealth to meet our needs, enough enthusiasm to look forward, and enough determination to make each day better than yesterday. As we bless God for the delicious food we eat, let us be thankful for the sustenance we receive in this extraordinary Breman Heritage Museum. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen, b'te'avon.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Berger, and I am absolutely pleased to be the executive director here at the Breman Museum. Thank you. I know that those applause are really for Shirley Brickman, who did an outstanding job. I am thrilled to be with you tonight, and I realize that I am the person who is the last to speak before we eat, so I will keep my comments brief, but are there some important comments I do want to make? As I was planning this event and we were talking about this 20th anniversary, there was a quote that kept coming through my mind, which is that no one whistles a symphony, it takes an orchestra. And that quote is so true for us, and there are some key orchestra players that we need to talk about tonight. So first, I have to bring up our staff. I have an incredibly innovative, creative, brilliant, dedicated staff of people who work tirelessly here at the Breman. So I would like a round of applause for them. They also work for change, so that's also another thing. I also need to talk about the exhibition. Do you like the exhibition? So let's blame Lisa Brill for that. Lisa Brill, outstanding job. She and her incredible exhibition committee worked tirelessly to go out into the community and talk to collectors and encourage them to lend works of art to the Breman. This is the first fine art show we've done, and it's because of Lisa and her incredible team that worked so hard, and our incredible collectors who gave so generously that this show was possible. So thank you for that. Good. I also want to mention the celebration committee. This room looks a little different. A little different, right? This celebration committee worked around the clock. It was chaired by Eleanor Rosenberg Breman with a little assistance from Margie Stern. Margie and her committee worked from the invitation to what you see now. This is all of their work, and thank you very, very much for what you've done. I want to also check in and mention the video that you saw tonight. This was no small undertaking, and Sherry and Laura Dinnerman chaired this and created these voices so that this 20 years is represented in this film. I think it is an incredible, in just under 6 minutes, we're showing the Breman's past, its present, and its future. Fantastic, thank you. Last, but certainly not least, I do need to acknowledge Candy and Steve Berman. I need to talk about Sharon and Mike Levison, and also Ellen and Jack Holland. They co-chaired our fundraising campaign. They were given a task of raising $500,000 for our 20th anniversary. I'm sorry to say that we did not meet that goal. We blew it out of the water. I am standing here to say that we have raised so far, we're still accepting checks, so far we have raised over $780,000. absolutely outstanding. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do need to talk just for a second about Carol and Bob Nemo, whose leadership gifts were over the top and really made an enormous difference, not only to the institution, but to me personally. Thank you. Now, I'd like y'all to just take a second, look around the room. This is a full room. We sold this room out 3 times. 3 times we sold out this room. We're turning on lights for a reason. I want you to look and think about the fact that as we talk about an orchestra that brought all of this together, you all did this, right? I get to take credit. That's pretty cool. But you did this. You gave, whether it was through your artwork or gave generously, you supported this institution and have done so for 2 decades. And what Shirley said, just wait to see what we do with 20 years ahead. I want to also tell you that if there was ever a time to question whether or not the Breman Museum needs its own building, I think we've answered that question. I really do. And I think that now, as we're about to serve dinner, I would like to suggest a dinner topic. No, I'm not going to hit you up for more money. Other people will do that. But I'm going to say the dinner topic is, what do you want out of a Jewish cultural center? What do you want for Atlanta to have for a Jewish cultural center? And talk amongst yourselves as you do that. When you leave tonight, you will each be given a copy of our brand new debuting magazine, Breman Magazine. This issue is commemorative. It is certainly for our 20th anniversary, but it is filled with articles that will be about that concept of cultural destination here in Atlanta. So think about it, enjoy your meal, and thank you again for everything you've done for the Breman Museum. Okay, no more food, sorry. So I have asked our friend Ivan, everyone say hello to Ivan. There we go. All right, so I have asked Ivan to do 2 things. One is to take a photo of all of us, because this should go in our archives, right? So Ivan, take a photo. First, take a photo. Everyone now, wave to Ivan, please. Wave, big hand. There we go. And if you can do one more. I have an ego. Thank you for indulging. Enjoy your evening. As we continue our conversation about what the Cultural Museum of Atlanta will be, I'd like to introduce to you Jerry Rosenberg. I almost said Dr. Jerry Rosenberg. It's just because he's Jewish. Jerry Rosenberg and Carol Breman Nemo, who are going to make some remarks from the family.
Actually, the remarks I'm making are really coming from my mother, Eleanor. Unfortunately, she just physically couldn't get here tonight as much as she wanted to. So I'm reading exactly what she put down. And Jarvin knows that that's the way you're supposed to do it. What a wonderful and exciting evening for you all and for me. Unfortunately, I'm unable to be here physically, but know that I am certainly here spiritually. Over 20 years ago, Bill Breman had this vision, and as we were newly married, I had the good fortune of helping him with the planning and opening. Since he physically left us, I have tried in every way I could to help carry on his legacy. Her comment, the absence of his presence will always be present. Jarvin has been a great supporter, advisor, and our first president. He is a caring, wise, and tireless man. I am so very grateful for our years of friendship. He's a real mensch, and he greatly deserves the honor this evening. We've certainly come a long way, and I pray that one day we will have our own beautiful building. Many thanks to you all for your support. And a special thanks to those of you who have been so generous in trusting us with your prized art. I must give special accolades to our director, Aaron Berger, and his staff, who have worked tirelessly to bring the Breman such a special evening. In addition, I certainly don't want to forget to thank the committee for all the hours and care they have put into making this event possible. May we continue to grow and prosper. God bless everyone.
There once was a guy named Bill who married a gal named Sil. They did lots of good wherever they could, which gave them a real big thrill. Through the years, lots of good transpired, but none of that did make Bill tired. He got one day an urgent call from David Sarnat, who was on a roll. Persuaded Bill to give a bundle for a Jewish museum that would cause a tumble. Jarvin was quickly on the scene, encouraging Bill and Eleanor to pursue their dream. And hurry they did to get that thing open before the Olympics they were hoping. Eleanor continues to set the pace. She cares so much for this wonderful place. From the beginning, Jarvin's been there. Every step of the way, he surely does care. And into our lap one day did appear our Lord and Savior, came Aaron, so dear. 80-hour work weeks are nothing for him to bear. He and his staffs are godsends, that's clear. So raise your glasses high and let's have a toast. To 100 more years, that's when we'll boast. L'chaim.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jarvin Levison. I'm the youngest and most favorite child to Jarvin Levison. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. This is not just an honor for my father, but for our entire family. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. So when we knew this evening was coming tonight, my father asked if I would sing a song. His first choice, September Song, which is a very beautiful, depressing song about the end of life. I decided I wasn't going to sing that, Dad. So I chose something, and I feel confident that this is really a song that comes from all three of your children, Dad, and we love you very much. I didn't want to listen to what you were saying. I thought that I knew all I need to know. I didn't realize that somewhere inside me I knew you were right, but I couldn't say so. I can take care of myself. Yeah, you taught us well. I learned from you that I do not crumble. I learned that strength is something you choose. All of the reasons to keep on believing. There's no question, that's a lesson I learned from you. We always don't agree on what is the best way to get to the place we're going from here. But you can always trust me and give me the distance to make my decisions
without any fear. I'm grateful for all of the times you opened my eyes. I learned from you that I do not crumble. I learned that strength is something you choose. All of the reasons to keep on believing. There's no question, that's a lesson I learned from you. You taught me to stand on my own, and I thank you for that. You saved me, you made me, and now that I'm looking back, I can say I learned from you that I do not crumble. I learned that strength is something you choose. All of the reasons to keep on believing. There's no question, that's a lesson I learned from you. I learned from you. We learned from you. We love you, Daddy.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Levison. This is my brother, Danny. We're generally just referred to as Super Jenny's brothers. And after that, you know why. First of all, again, just to echo what my sister said, just on behalf of the entire family, thank you very much for being here tonight to celebrate the Breman's 20th and its honoree, our father, grandfather, Jarvin Levison, who generally is typically just known as Super Jenny's father. Any of you who know my father know that the thought of a room full of people, many of them standing up and giving him praise, is not something he's very comfortable with. In fact, I can't think of anything that would make him more uncomfortable. But anyhow, sorry, Dad. You know the old saying, no good deed goes unpunished. But I will try to make this brief. I obviously gave a lot of thought to what I might say tonight. There are a lot of possibilities, but one idea, one thought just kept coming back to mind, and that was role model. In virtually, every important aspect of life, whether it be work ethic, commitment to family, aging well, generosity, patience, things that most people remember about you. My father never, preached to us how to, how we should live our lives, how we should go about those things. He just showed us, just quietly showed us. And those of you that know him know that he does a pretty good, damn good job of it. We do have a close family. We actually enjoy doing things together, but he really sets the tone for it. He's the magnet that brings us together. He's the glue that holds us together. And I guess the last thing I'd like to say is that I know that Danny, Jen, myself, we certainly have looked at the example that he set and incorporated it, trying to incorporate it in how we lead our lives. But it really doesn't stop there. These examples, these lessons aren't lost on our children, his grandchildren, and there's no question that they've incorporated it, and it impacts the way they lead and will lead their lives. So, Dad, the lessons that you've taught us, they're going to last for generations, and that's a great legacy. And for that, we thank you and love you.
Wow, that's two hard acts to follow. My name is Danny Levison. I'm Jen and Mike's brother. Again, I just want to say the same sentiments. We really appreciate everybody coming out and honoring our father, who we refer to as Zadie, and also supporting the Breman. You know, I'd like to say they saved the best for last, but it's pretty obvious that my sister has all the talent. They chose my brother to kind of oversee this funding, and I know that Steve and Jack were involved, but my guess was that they just did what he told them. You know, I asked my dad what I should talk about when I got up here, and the best advice he gave me was focus on the last 25 years of our relationship, not the first 25. You know, that's what I'm going to try to do. It really took me about that long to realize, you know, the kind of role model that my Heavenly Father had given me here on earth to model by. You know, I tried to think of a story that would very quickly describe, you know, the admiration and love that I have for my dad, but also the respect and admiration that the folks that I have seen him interact with over my life have had. And I got a lot of stories, but the one that came to mind was in my late 20s, I got viral meningitis. And I woke up in the morning about 6 o'clock. I had the worst headache I've ever had. I thought I had a brain tumor, so I immediately called my dad, and of course he immediately came over, picked me up, took me to the hospital, or actually we went to the doctor's office, and they put me in the hospital for about 10 days. And all I remember is every time I rolled over, there was my dad. And I just, seeing him, I knew that I would be okay. But, you know, it was just really a microcosm of really his life, because I think most of you know that my dad has spent his whole life basically being there for everyone in his life, whether it was his family, his friends, his peers. You know, he's always there. You can always count on him. You know, I think we all want to leave a legacy in our life. You know, the Bremans have left an incredible legacy with this building. I actually carry a coin with me most of the time, and it says, leave a legacy on it. And as I look back, I really can't remember one time that I have ever reached out to anyone and said, Jarvin Levison asked me to give you a call, that they haven't taken my call and tried to help me if they could. And it's just an amazing thing. I don't often speak for my brother and my sister. You can tell we got a lot of chiefs in our family. So, but I think I can speak and say that if we could have the love and admiration from our kids and grandchildren, and earn the respect and admiration that my dad has from his peers and his business associates, we would leave an incredible legacy. And Dad, we just appreciate you being the role model that you have been for us your whole life. So I want to wrap this up, but I want to finish the story about my viral meningitis. So I was in the hospital for about 10 days, delirious, and just felt terrible. My sister-in-law, Sharon, on the 10th day brought me some matzo ball soup. And the doctor came in after I ate it and said, look, you're great, go on home. And so I know my sister's built a whole career on my father's turkey chili, but if you get sick and you got a problem, I would suggest you call Sharon. Well, look, I've only got a couple minutes. I want to turn this over to my cousin AJ, who, by the way, he's the only other guy that I know. If you drop his name, people are willing to take your call too. But really, thank you a lot for coming out and honoring my dad and supporting the Breman. Thank you.
Well, as Danny said, I am AJ Robinson, and I'm Jarvin's oldest nephew. And what I have to say to you tonight, and of course what Jarvin has to say, is the only thing between you and dessert. And I know that Jarvin is going to be a lot briefer than I am. So I knew this last part of this evening would be a daunting task. So I reached out to Jarvin's older sister for help. That would be Natalie, my mother. thinking surely she would have some kind of pearls of wisdom to share about her younger brother. So, by the way, my mother, who's right here, is 90 years old. Wait a minute, wait a second. It's Jarvin is 89, and his little brother, Gilbert, is 79. So they represent collectively, since this is about history here, over 250 years of Levison family history. So besides having very wonderful and supportive children, I'm not sure why they are aging so well, but let's give them a big round of applause. Why don't y'all stand up? See, they won't even stand up. Come on, stand up. All right, thank you for that. Now, unfortunately, my mother wasn't much help except to say that Jarvin was unique. Without elaborating very much, he said, just go with it. He's been unique all his life. So I thought for a moment about Jarvin's uniqueness, and I want to share with you a couple of observations. Okay, so the first one is, how many of you actually know another Jarvin? No one. Now, if that doesn't make you unique, I don't know what does. Nobody here knows another Jarvin. So the second question I had was, how many of you know what Jarvin means? No one knows that either. So again, Natalie was of little help. She's the only one that was around, I think, when Jarvin was born. So, and I knew Jarvin's mom very well, Ella Levison. She taught me how to drive. It never occurred to me at age 15 to ask her, what were you thinking with that Jarvin name? So guess where I went? Where do you go these days when you don't know? You go to Google. So I Googled Jarvin. So let me tell you what I found out regarding the meaning of Jarvin. So Jarvins, and this is no joke, you can look it up. Jarvins are honest, benevolent, brilliant, and often inventive. Jarvins are leaders, especially for a cause. They do well in a position of authority and prosper in intellectual and professional fields. They are peacemakers. They understand the law of harmony and desire to balance one's life with those around you. They have developed intuition, patience, and the ability to nurture others. It's amazing what's on the internet, you know. So another couple of observations about Jarvin's uniqueness. And of course, tonight we're here to honor him for all the work and devotion to create the Breman. And it's real simple. There wouldn't be a Breman without him. And we all know that. And I know folks here who were there at the beginning with us know that. But my guess is that most of you here tonight have been touched by him in some small or large way in your lifetime. Maybe it was a little bit of advice, maybe an introduction, an encouraging word, or even a recipe for chili. In my own case, it was an introduction to a Portman associate way back in 1980, which began my career in Atlanta. And later I met at Jarvin's house, Rachel Liel. Many of you may remember Rachel. She is married to the former Israeli Consul General to the Southeast, Alon Liel. And Rachel ultimately convinced me to go out on a blind date with my future wife, Nicole, back in 1990. Jarvin had all that planned from the very beginning when he invited me over for brunch. So my last observation, I know when we depart tonight, because this looks like a crowd that's been to dinners many times, and there'll be on the drive home that ultimate critique of the evening. It'll start with the food, and then it'll say that, the speeches were a little long. And, there'll be the critique. We've all done it. And no doubt, though, there'll be one thing that we'll all agree on, and that was that we have a very deserving honoree. And that is unique. Because I know we've all been... I know I've been to too many tributes where it's not exactly the case. And I've learned over the years I've learned over the years that deserving award winners share at least one important characteristic, and that is humility. And Jarvin definitely qualifies on that measurement tool. So in closing, I had to bring this up. Jarvin's not going to like this, but I found a great quote from Harry Truman. Now, Jarvin's probably the only person in here. Maybe I don't know. There may be a couple others. I know he didn't vote for Harry Truman. Okay? Right, Jarvin? He wrote it. He had to vote for Dewey. I just know it. So I thought, anybody else actually vote in the Truman-Dewey race? Okay, so it's hard to see up here. I don't know if anybody raised their hand, but didn't admit it. But I know my mom was alive, so I asked her tonight, you know, thinking that no way she voted for Dewey. And she thought for a moment, and I thought she'd say Truman. And I thought, well, that's good. We'll have a split household just like people have today. And she said, no, I voted for Truman. I said, why'd you vote for Truman? Because Jarvin told me to. And Jarvin, what were you, 21 maybe? Something like that. I figured out he was about 21 years old. So here's the Truman quote, whether he likes it or not. And Truman said, there's no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit. And you know, Robert Woodruff had that on his desk, and I know Jarvin knew that Robert Woodruff knows that it was on his desk, and he has made it more famous, I think, than Harry Truman. So Jarvin, for all those qualities that make you unique to everyone here and your love of this institution, please come forward and accept this token of our appreciation. This says, Jarvin Levison, in recognition of your time, outstanding commitment, and decades of dedication to our success, with gratitude, the William Breman Jewish Heritage Museum, December 3rd, 2016.
Thank you all. Interesting, they left a program up here, what the program is for tonight, and I see that when I'm through, you can go home. Okay. As many of you know, I would rather listen than talk. And particularly tonight, I found it rather interesting hearing the eulogies from my children. Actually, Sandra told me I should wear a dark suit. And I said, no, that's not my style. And fortunately, had I worn a dark suit and heard those eulogies, I thought this would have really been the end. I want to thank Aaron and Jerry for their comments, along with Craig, because you eliminated a great deal of what I was going to say. But I do want to thank and express some thanks to some people who've been really part of the agreement from the beginning that really have never received the recognition that they should have. We all know of the involvement of Bill and Eleanor Breman, which we don't have to repeat over and over again because we've lived that experience. And incidentally, I don't know if Rabbi Berg left, but I wanted to tell him that I first became acquainted with the Breman family when Carol was one of my Sunday school students. And I know that that would shock Rabbi Berg to know that I was once a Sunday school teacher at the temple. I want to give some credit to people that some of you may remember but may not have realized that were so involved in the actual creation of the Breman from the inception, which evolved over a period of time. The very first that I had contact with was Gerald Cohen, who was the president of the Federation, who called me and asked me if I would chair a committee to undertake a study of what the Jewish community in Atlanta might support in the way of archives, the Holocaust Museum, Holocaust studies, anything. And I agreed. And so the very inception recognition should go to Gerald. But almost immediately thereafter, I would say the fellow that really took charge and drove us through it for a long, long time was David Sarnett. And while David and I had some differences from time to time, I really do give him credit for leading us to where we are today. So David, wherever you are, if you would stand up. Well, I hope he didn't leave before I began to speak anyhow. There's several others, of course. Today we're led by Aaron, who's done a fantastic job and who's going to lead us for the next 20 years, I hope. But also, I want to give recognition to our early staff, which was Jane Levy, Sandy Bergman, and Lily Baxter. I think Lily's here tonight. I'd like to give recognition also to several people who are no longer with us. And I hope I remember everybody that was involved. But Margaret Weiler, Mendel Rahm, I mentioned Gerald Cohen, Betty Jacobson. Let's see, I think I wrote down a couple others. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill Schwartz, Marlene's husband, who succeeded me as the president and really pushed the Breman along in the early days. And now there are just a few others that I'd like to give recognition to that have been part and parcel, volunteers for the 20 years. Although she's here so much, it's hard to imagine she's just a volunteer. But Laura Denneman, Lois Blonder, Tom and Spring Asher, Joyce Schlesinger. I've got some notes. Can't remember all of it, but I will let you know in just a moment. Judy Cohen, Gail Evans, Shirley Brickman, Judith Taylor. I think I lost a card or two. Anyhow, for those of whom I don't recall, my apologies, but I want to thank you. I want to encourage all of you to stay involved. Let's make the next 20 years fantastic. And if I'm here at the end of that 20 years, I will have replaced Mel Brooks' 2,000-year-old man. Thank you all.
So now I get to say it's time for dessert. So dessert is being served. Please know that that is on its way. And also the bar is still open, so help yourself to that. And I do want to remind those of you that tomorrow is a members preview. So for those of you that are members, which I'm sure all of you are members, right? Don't make me check. Tomorrow we're doing a members preview of the exhibition. So if you didn't have a chance to really look at the exhibition tonight and you'd like a guided tour with me, we'll be doing tours throughout the day tomorrow morning beginning at 10:30. So I hope you'll join that. Before I step off the stage, I do want to give one round of applause to Dr. Bill Island again for his gracious service as our guest curator for the Atlanta Collects exhibition. Thank you so much for what you've done. And enjoy dessert and continue mingling amongst yourselves.